Welcome to the arcade, I'm Sleepless Knight, and this week Kraken Express released an unexpected teaser for the next update to its massively popular pirate survival game, Windrose. The runaway hit, which started life as a pirate MMO called Crosswind, entered early access on April 14th, and with the exception of the odd live stream to maintain my self-proclaimed variety gamer status, I've played almost nothing else since. After well over 400 hours of play, I was keen for new information about the coming update. We already knew the new update was going to focus on a new Ashlands biome, and early communication from the devs made it clear that we weren't going to get our hands on this first major content update for at least 6 months. So most of us hadn't really been concerned about the lack of further news. So I was pretty surprised to log on and find a teaser for the coming update while still months away. It's pretty short, at only 38 seconds long, and that gets even shorter when you consider the first 16 seconds are shots of biomes already in the game, and the last 9 seconds are the game's vanity cards and artwork. But once you've boiled all that away, you're left with 5 or 6 very brief shots of things we haven't seen yet, including a couple of the Ashlands biome itself, which does pretty much what it says on the tin. It's all very Devil's Roar, and I think we can more or less expect lands covered in some sort of ash. Shocking, I know, but we do get a brief look at a new skeletal enemy type, and then 2 clips that interest me more than the others. The first is the stern of a new type of ship, and the second is what is attached to it. The ensign you can see fluttering in the breeze here. Both of those things I'll talk in more detail about in a moment. So there isn't much to go on if your sole source of new information is rapidly changing pretty pictures, but if you're one of those old-fashioned weirdos who reads things, here are a couple of the things the devs had to say about the coming update, which might help us make sense of what we're seeing. I'll leave a link to the dev blog in the video description so you can look at it in more detail, but they do state that in Ashlands we can expect both the main story and side quests to grow significantly in scope. They then talk about new factions entering the fray with ambitions and schemes, and that the Obol's power has twisted lands already ravaged by volcanic eruptions, making them more dangerous than ever. They do say later on that these volcanic eruptions happened long ago, so we're unlikely to see any actual eruptions during our visit to this new biome, but if you're looking to step things up from plague-infested swamplands crawling with dark Pokemon versions of crocodiles evolved through nuclear testing, where better than exploding islands full of the undead where stepping in a puddle can melt off your shins and deep breaths might set your lungs on fire. They do talk about new biome mechanics, but we can only speculate as to what that means at this point. I am pleased to see that the devs are at least trying to make sure that we won't lose all our progress. In a game like this, a reset would hurt more than it might in a lot of other games, but early access, innit? You pays your money, you takes your choice. They shared a few updated costume concepts for the Buccaneer faction and are apparently working on others, as well as a look at some possible future armor sets. And there is a brief mention of expanding the existing building sets with new pieces, new decorations and quality of life improvements, as well as possible expansion of the camp NPCs that you have roaming around. But what about that ship we saw in the teaser? This is a pirate game after all, and I'm happy to learn that the devs share the feelings of many in the community that the ship gameplay has a lot of room for expansion. Some of the things they're looking into at the moment include enriching and deepening ship gameplay in ways inspired by both our feedback and the devs' own plans, more ship classes, with at least one being added in Ashlands, plus more faction ship variants, giving combat gameplay more care and attention, and AI improvements such as NPC ships behaving more naturally, sailing in formations, and so on. Then they touch on something that has been mentioned many times in the Windrose community, which is wind influence on sailing. And they stress very clearly that they want sailing to be fun and simple without some of the more hardcore simulation aspects. Now, to give the Windrose community credit where it is due, most people who requested this are simply suggesting some sort of wind interaction. Most are savvy enough to know that realistic wind influence is not what anyone wants in an 18th century pirate game. I am going to talk more about this in an upcoming Windrose video dedicated to ship combat and sailing, but put simply, nobody would want a game in which an early 18th century square-rigged sailing vessel interacts with wind in anything like a realistic way. The game already plays it pretty fast and loose with sailing mechanics, particularly where rigging and speed are concerned, so I'm sure they will handle these requests with a measure of common sense for the preservation of sanity. They did give us a couple of shots of 3 ships they are currently working on: the Galleon, the Flight, and Brigantine, and have said at least one of these ships will make it into the Ashlands update. It's not entirely clear which ship is seen in the video, but it does seem to me to be the Brigantine, minus the more ornate taffrail and sternboard, which is probably dependent on the faction. The hull of the ship in the video is not bulbous enough for a Flight and not nearly tall enough for a galleon. But I guess we'll see. What I can tell you is what this represents, and I'm sure many of you figured it out almost instantly. Windrose is of course set in an alternate 18th century age of piracy, but much of what's in there is drawn from reality, and this is one such thing. You're probably familiar with this particular body of ne'er-do-wells from other loosely historical entertainment media, but despite what you may have seen in Pirates of the Caribbean or the appropriately titled Taboo, this symbol is complete and utter fiction. Whereas this is a very accurate recreation of the bale mark of the British East India Company, or as it came to be known in 1708, the United East India Company. Yes, that's a U, not a V. More accurately, it was the United Company of Merchants of England trading to the East Indies, but it's probably harder to get that on a coin. And a coin, or stamp, or seal is where you would have seen it. I've never seen any evidence that it was ever flown as a ship's ensign, and the British East India Company's ensign looked more like this. But that depends on where you look, and very specifically what year you're talking about. The United East India Company was formed by a merger of sorts in 1708 to avoid accusations of a monopoly, and had nothing to do with the union of English and Scottish parliaments just 1 year prior. United just seemed to be a popular thing in 18th century England, a buzzword, if you like, in much the same way that decolonisation is in 2026, if you're a fan of irony. Anyway, we're in danger of learning things at this rate, and this was supposed to be about playing a game, so I'm going now, but you'll see more Windrose videos from me in the very near future. Subscribe if you're feeling generous, but honestly, a like and a comment are much more useful things to me on YouTube these days, and YouTube also suck at letting you know when I'm going live or posting a video, so if you want to be notified every time I do one of those things, joining the Sleepless Night Discord server is probably going to be more reliable than clicking the notification bell, but both are appreciated. You'll find links to the Discord server and various other means of support and stalking in the video description and on the arcade channel header. But until next time, this is Sleepless Night saying nighty-night.